Subconscious mind mastery, 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 mastery.
Welcome to the Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast. Thomas Miller back with Michele Blood. This is part 2, so if you're dropping in off of the lineup of videos on YouTube or podcasts on whatever you listen to them on, you would want to definitely listen to the episode prior to this so that you get the context of part 1. But we're going to jump back into Michele Blood's story of how she transformed, not only from as you said, 15 years old, leaving home in Australia to joining a rock band, lead singer. You've got the vibrance of a lead singer for sure. You've stage presence. I could just only imagine is phenomenal. And then, boom, into a telephone pole that changed your life. From that, you met Bob Proctor and his gang. And from that, you met a guru who taught you enlightenment. So you and I came up in not too unsimilar backgrounds spiritually or religiously, we should say. You were raised Catholic. I was raised Southern Baptist. They don't think that there are any similarities, but oh my, they're a lot closer than they both realize. And we never grew up with anything about enlightenment. It was more like salvation. You had to be saved or you were going to go to hell. So we're not versed in the West in these Eastern traditions. So how do you, now that you have been on the side of the fence that you're on, how do you explain this concept of enlightenment outside of, I have something you don't have? Because to me, one thing that I think we do agree on is that, and you mentioned as we closed up part 1, is that we all have access to this. We all have access to God. So how does this enlightenment concept fit into a spiritual path?
Well, the purpose of life, great question always, Thomas, is enlightenment, is to be awakened. You know, I have studied everything you can imagine, and I've done every sort of course when I was searching for God myself. As a kid, I was brought up in the country, very similar to how I live now in the mountains, but it was the Blue Mountains of Australia in Oberon, beautiful little town, and they had a beautiful Irish nuns that taught us. And I was in love with these nuns, and I've always loved the Irish accents, one of my favorites in the world. And they had me singing at their school of Stedfords. And these nuns would have me sing at their school of Stedfords. And if anybody knows about true Catholic churches back in the day, when I was a kid in the 60s, the nuns were very much into their school of Stedfords against the other Catholic schools. And so I was so in love with these nuns, and with Jesus Christ, because I didn't know any. And so as a young girl, I was extremely religious. And I was just a baby, really, just a baby. And I was allowed, because they had mass every morning, the nuns with the local priest. I was allowed at that age, it was just across the road. Mum just let me go there every morning to go to mass at 6:30 a.m. with the nuns. Every morning I was allowed to do that. Amazing. And so they didn't really talk, the Irish nuns and the Irish priests there, they didn't really, even though it's in Australia, they didn't really talk about you got to be saved. But we did hear words like otherwise you miss church on Sunday, you'll go to hell, to a little kid. So the Catholics did bring us up to think, if you don't do this and you don't do that, and, it was just, that was always weird to me. And when I used to go to confession each week, I would have to lie because I couldn't think of anything I'd done bad. And not really lie, but I'd say, I didn't make my bed perfectly this morning. And then the priest would laugh at me. Well, that's okay, Miss Bloody. Hello, Miss Bloody. Anyway, so I wasn't brought up with hearing about salvation per se, but studying all the different religions when I was searching for, I didn't know what it was, God, enlightenment, whatever it was, because my heart glow was there and I wanted to find out what it was. And I was doing this while I was on a search for an enlightened teacher, Thomas. I heard about a lot of different things. And I did go to a Baptist church for a couple of years.
Mm.
And I went back to Catholicism for a while. And I was just, really wanting to know what it was all about. And one of the things I noticed when I went back to Catholicism, and the priest just wanted me to put on charity events with my band to make money for the church.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, not about the beast, it's about the money. Anyway, and when the Catholic Church said all of a sudden, you don't have to go to mass on Sunday morning anymore, you can go Saturday night now, I realized it was absolute man-made, that it's a sin if you don't go to mass on Sunday, because
Yeah.
all of a sudden they realized they're losing their flock. And so
Yeah.
that's when I started wanting to look at other avenues. I realized, but now it's okay to go on Saturday night to mass. So I just stopped Catholicism. Then I went to a Baptist church, and they were talking about you've got to be saved, otherwise you go to hell, and all this negative stuff. And all I ever wanted to do is make people happy. And then I heard a minister say, this woman could not be remarried, but her husband, who divorced her, he could, because he was a bloke. And I was like, well, this is not for me. Then I did the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes study. And I sort of liked that because it was more scientific and it was interesting. But I was always about the heart. And so hearing about all these different concepts of salvation and you've got to be saved, comparing it now to what I know it's like kindergarten. It's like an evolution of different people of different walks of life. And some people just do their church because just in case, some of them through superstition, just in case, and some of them because they really do love the light. They love God, whatever their form of God is. But reading Autobiography of a Yogi, you'll notice that Yogananda desperately wanted to meet other enlightened beings. He really wanted to. He started traveling the world, hearing about, this woman, Stigmata, let's go and check her out. Maybe she's enlightened. But he realized she wasn't. She was just some sort of a psychic phenomena, but not enlightenment. And he would go around looking at all these different people who said they had special powers or they were enlightened. One guy in India that he visited that jewels would come, jewels and diamonds and food, whatever you wanted. And he said it's a siddha power. Now, a siddha power, before full enlightenment, as you go into early enlightenment, you start gaining different powers. Everyone's has a different power that they're given, lots of different powers. They keep coming into you. However, if you focus on power and not on enlightenment, you get drawn like a rabbit hole into the ego of, look at me, I can manifest food. It comes from somewhere else, Yogananda said. Anybody can learn that. He said, but imagine all the years to learn how to do that instead of focusing on enlightenment.
Mm.
And so being saved and salvation you don't need to be saved from anything. You are already perfect. You are already beautiful. You already have a beautiful diamond that is just coated with negative experiences that you've had before. That doesn't make you bad or that you're not saved. It just means that it's just there and you have to release it through affirmations, through being kind, through being compassionate, wanting to uplift others, thinking of others first, and being a person who you get happier and happier the more you're around happy people, and to understand that happiness and feeling joy and love for other people is your salvation. Not everybody on the planet is going to be enlightened in one lifetime. It just doesn't work that way. There isn't like a big, we'll all be saved in one day. And it doesn't matter to me. I don't debate with people, even when they've asked me to, about enlightenment or certain things in the Bible, because to me, a perfect life is a person who wants to do things that are going to uplift others. And salvation is, to me, clearing that diamond so that you can become more, expand your consciousness, and every day think of what you can do to uplift others. Whether it's the trees that you forgot to water them. Everything is God. Everything is enlightenment. It's just that we've got this, like the Buddhists say, this veil. Sometimes we can feel it, but we can't see that light yet. We can't see who people are. And so life is a box of chocolates, Thomas.
Well, it's and I mean, early on, when I started this podcast, I thought, well, you've got to close it with some kind of thing, some kind of little hook, right? And I just chose enjoy the journey, because for me, at that point, especially dropping in, starting this thing in 2013, it was a journey. And I've just always said on here, look, you're following warts and all. You're not following, some ascended master kind of thing. Don't know. No. I'm dealing with daily struggles just like you. And that's the way I've always approached it with this. So it is a journey. It's a process. And it sounds like what happened there between the accident and when you found and studied with Kundalini and then found this enlightenment experience, that the journey was very deep for you, is what I'm hearing, is that you were craving something that most people don't crave. Would that be true?
Yeah, and it wasn't chocolates anymore.
Yeah, no, this was it sounded like you had a yearning there that you were needing to pursue.
I call it soul sickness. And it's not that you're sick, it's that you're yearning, good way of putting it, for something you want to, you have to find out what it is. And the Buddhists will call it a bhakti. You're a natural bhakti. I think Hindus call it a bhakti as well. I'm not sure. And a bhakti is a person who is a natural lover of life, of God. So that's why from a very young age, I fell in love with Jesus, because that was my first interpretation of what enlightenment or God was, and Jesus said it all the time. It is not I who does it. It is the Father through me. He was always extremely clear about that. And as we become clearer and clearer, we realize that people that are wanting you, it depends on the culture. If it's an Indian culture or Bhutanese, yes, you do bow to the master, the guru. I mean, my teacher wouldn't call herself a guru in a million years. But anyway, guru just means teacher in English.
Yeah.
So people that from the West, though, that expect you to, they sort of, I did a podcast once and this lady's like talking to me beforehand, just normally, normal voice, blah, blah, blah. And then when we start the interview, oh, hello, Michele. I am Jasmine, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't her name. I'm not going to mention it. It's many years ago. And I was like, see, this is what I don't like. Someone who's acting all saintly, and it's like, you're just a normal human. You have awakened, just like the Buddha said, I'm awake. You're still a normal human. It's like before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, but without fear of the axe anymore. You don't have fear anymore is what is going on. You still go through having to make money, mortgage, roof over your head, whatever you've got to do, but you don't have fear anymore. And your faith is not just I believe that could happen. It's not, oh, I'm hoping. It's absolute 100%. I know that I know, because it's God through you, that infinite, omnipotent power. There is no other power. This world is just a dream. And, you heard me talking about it in Santa Monica when we met up. It was like, even the scientists have proven that we are holograms. This is not real. We think we're solid. And when you can see the liquid, that this is just like When Dreams May Come with, oh gosh, absolutely love that movie. And it is just it's a dream. It is not even a dream. It is an illusion. And while we're here, the most important thing is exactly what you said, Thomas, enjoying the journey, but not selfishly. Enjoying the journey. You were brave enough to start something called subconscious mind mastery. When I first started teaching, people would just think I was off the edge, because it was like the early 90s. And they were like, what in the hell is she talking about? So at least people are more educated. And the scientific studies, if you're someone who doesn't believe that all things are possible for you, but it means you still have to take action. And your salvation is being a person who can do things when it does scare you, because every time you do something that, like, I love the way Bob used to say it, do it, but do it scared, because then that fear will be released from you forever from that particular thing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. The terror barrier, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You mentioned that yearning for God. I remember my first experience was about age 3.
Oh,
But there's a program, familiar with Krishna Das, Jeffrey Cagle. He used to be with Blue Oyster Cult, and he hooked up with Ram Dass back in the late 60s and early 70s and ended up going over to India. Yeah. And Neem Karoli Baba, and that was his teacher, his guru. And in a program that he outlined that whole story of going to India and his transformation, it's called Pilgrim of the Heart. And Sounds True put it out some years ago. He told a story in there of a poem from Rumi about love dogs. And basically the way it goes was that the story was that somebody was praying to God and then all of a sudden just scrapped it, threw it aside. And the Great Spirit came to him and said, "Why did you stop praying?" And he said, "No answers." And the Great Spirit said, "You need to pant after God. You need to howl after God, the way that a dog howls for its master after its master leaves the house. And that dog is there yelping and howling until its master comes back home." He said, "Be a love dog." And I just thought, man, that is a beautiful capturing of what a heart yearning for God truly is.
Oh, you got me, Thomas. Because that is what it is. It is so intense and nothing else matters. I never at that time, ever did what I did following my teacher because I thought I could become enlightened. That wasn't in my consciousness. It was like that could never happen. I didn't even think that that could happen. But when I'd go into meditation, I would start feeling that connection so deeply. And the more and more I could stop my thought, I could feel this oneness. And there's no other bliss like it. And I just wanted to do anything I could for my teacher, do anything I could for anybody else. When I saw even students of hers being unhappy or, it's interesting. A lot of spiritual people on the spiritual path may want the power of an enlightened teacher, what that transmission gives to them. But they're not a bhakti. They're not doing it because they have such love and respect for the teacher. Because the teacher is not God. God is God, but is a conduit of the light for you. And if you have a teacher that says, "I am God," run away. But
you're getting into that territory now of why I chose authenticity for my word for 2025. And this is what I'd like to unpack with you here for the rest of this episode. And then we have a lot more that we'll talk about in the future. You just brought up a great point. You said run. A realization came to me a summer ago, about a year and a half ago, from when this is being recorded, that a lot of spiritual practices, it became so vivid in this one situation that a lot of spiritual practices are nothing but a facade or a cover-up for whatever is underneath it. And not to be judgmental, but there are things underneath it that are not being dealt with. And it's real easy to grab God out of the sky and throw it onto a situation because you can't argue with God. When you put the God label on it, all of a sudden, it's, this untouchable, or it's this, it's that category now. And instead of somebody that needs psychological counseling, They can duck out of it by just throwing the spiritual wrap on it. And I know you've seen this. You probably saw it in the early day churches. You probably saw it in the seminars that you were doing with Bob and his, I mean, spiritual people, different brand of spirituality, but different, that people are trying to be spiritual, that really underneath it, they are totally not, and they're covering it up, and they're blind to the fact that they're covering it up. So one of the pursuits that I'd like to work through with you is distinguishing authenticity in our spirituality, even with ourself, to where we can go in and look in the mirror in that bathroom when we're brushing our teeth, and we can look right at our own eyes and determine or just acknowledge or just be in that space of, is this real? Is this really real, what you're doing? Like when I get on here, I've thought about this a lot over the past year, and that's what kind of brought me to this place of just wanting to bring forth very real, practical spirituality. And I think that's the path that you've been on too. You've created a lot of resources to help people find this.
You got me again. Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing about being a female rock singer from Australia is you are very aware of menacing crap that happens underneath the surface. Not the band. Every musician I've ever worked with were amazing. Road crews are great, such hardworking people. And I found those guys are such gentlemen, and they treated me with so much respect and love, and we'd have so much laughter, and we work really hard and write our songs and rehearse. But then when it comes to managers, records execs, agents, it's similar to a spiritual guru in a way. We are God. If you want to get a good record deal, you come and sleep with me. And it's like, because I was a pretty cute little kid back then, and I'd be just like, no way, I'll kick your ass.
I have another option. Yeah. I have another idea.
So in the end, because all the guys in my band were over 6 foot. Crazy, huh? I'm 5 foot. So then after a while, I realized, like the manager of a venue, you're waiting to get your money at the end of the night. And he's like wanting to put you in a little room and count it out like $1, $2. And you're like, so I'd always bring one of the biggest road crew with me. And I would just say, look, I think you better do something because he doesn't look too happy. He's tired. We've had a late night. Give us our money. I don't know if I've got it all. I said, we had 4,000 people here tonight, and it's sort of like, they want to be gods. They want to, people that want to manipulate other people. This is how cults happen, when people that are vulnerable and they're actually really sincerely looking for a path. They're looking for a spiritual path. And these people from these different cults, I've seen it. They absolutely can tell because they're in a sort of I call them like an occult specialist.
Yeah.
They've got a
Yeah.
type of consciousness where the ego is so weird and there's something psychologically very wrong with them, but they can still, they're predators. They can tell when someone is weak enough, or maybe they're not too weak yet, but they know how to manipulate and mold them. And I've seen this all over the world, and it's terrifying to see what they're doing to these beautiful souls that are sincerely wanting to do good. And they're believing that the so-called master or the guru is telling them what to do for their highest good. I mean, particularly if somebody says to you, no longer see your old friends, don't see your family. Sometimes that's good advice, but you give it to yourself. Don't let someone else tell you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
For sure.
it's there's a world out there where people say, oh, everything's light right now. We've got a high evolution. And I say, I don't know why people keep saying that. It's not true. We have got 8 billion people on the planet right now. And because of the fact that you may be in an oscillation, a vibration, a frequency where you are attracting into your life things that you are attracted to, like beautiful Thomas and his wonderful podcast. And different books that have changed your life, and and so you begin to think, because you are attracting, you making your own world. Like the Buddha said, we are what we think. Everything we think arises from our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make our world. So therefore, your world becomes a world where you're attracting spiritually minded people, authentic people, people that are generous and kind. So you begin to think that the world is awakening, but it's not. There is still such low evolution in so many parts of the world. And this particular world plane, which is all about enlightenment, we all go through having to burn off different karmic energies from our past life, depending on where we're born again. I mean, I could go on about karma and past lives forever, because it is really real. And this world is very, very complicated. But even though it is complicated, my advice is do what Thomas said and really look within and say, this is how you can tell. It's pretty easy. You go to an event, you think you're getting pumped up, or you see some guru, or how do you feel 3 days later? Do you
Mm.
feel like you're down where you were again, or you still feel uplifted and joyful? It's starting to feel like, wow, that was I was seen, that was real. Or you're hanging out with people and you don't know, because you've all of a sudden they've said, "Oh, come to our church. It's really cool. You'll learn about this and that." And you leave an hour later feeling drained and feeling weird. Whenever you feel like that, run, because that means there's manipulation going on. Everyone is psychic. Everyone can feel what's real and what's not real. And the more you can still your mind through meditation practice, the more you can see what's real and what's not real. So, and what we mean by real is what Thomas was saying, what's authentic, what is for your highest divine good. And there you go.
Man, I love that. I love that. In fact, let's wrap this episode up with a little dual meditation. Let's both contribute to this just for a couple of minutes of authenticity. How about if I go first? I'll just kind of get us started, and then why don't you contribute just a couple of minutes? We'll do this each. And let's, for those who want to kind of do what you just said, still their minds and their thoughts, and go into an examination inside of true authenticity. Let's just see if we can make that happen for a second. How about it? You game?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
All
Let's
right.
go.
So, obviously, if you want to participate in this with us and you are at a place where you can, close your eyes and just take a good deep breath. And boy, I wish I could go play that gong over my shoulder back there to get this started, but we'll just do it with our voices. We'll do some of that later. Good. You have it right there. All of mine are out of arm's reach. But just take a good exhale and get comfortable and just sit in for a second here. This won't be long. Big exhale. And as you close your eyes and center along your chakra line, your focus goes somewhere along that line to where the energy is falling for you. It might be your solar plexus, maybe it's your root chakra, could be your heart, your throat. Maybe you went straight to your third eye, to your crown. Feel into that energy. And just ask that energetic line to speak to you. Is there anything I need to change? I may not be on my best path, highest path. I may not be there yet. Like Michele said, it's many lifetimes. Don't worry about it. We're on a journey. How are you doing on your journey? Ask yourself. How am I? Am I on course? Am I off course? Do I need a little course correction? Or do I need to stay the course? Am I being real? You know, if you're early on in your journey, maybe in this area, you might think, God, I've got so far to go. All you want to do is take that next step, and then the next one after that. Just make sure the step you're taking is purely authentic from that love dog perspective. That as you are moving forward, you are howling for the source, for that one you love. And you won't rest until you find it. And if you're there, pretty well tell that you're searching in the right place. And I'll hand it off to you, Michele.
Take another deep breath in through the nose. If you can, make sure both nostrils are clear. Hold it. Open your eyes just a little bit and just gaze my eyes, softening your eyes. Just gaze your eyes. We're just going to be in silence for a minute, and then I'm going to do a special prayer for you. I am now speaking to your diamond, to your enlightenment, to your higher self. Right now, every cell of your being and in between the cells is overflowing with the beautiful Shakti, the vibrating oscillation frequency of light that is animating your very life force, recalibrating your being. So I give thanks that from this moment onwards, things begin to change in your life to the positive. You begin to feel love, oneness, and joy. You are one with omnipotent power. There is no other power. Omnipresent light. Omniscient wisdom. So I give thanks that whatever your circumstances are right now, or whatever you're doing, things are being uplifted. What you are seeking is seeking you on the positive realm. You are beautiful. You are enlightenment. It may be veiled right now, but you have all of that. You are omnipresent light. You have all the power within you from this moment onwards to have a changed life. Know that you are never, ever alone. So take another deep breath in, breathing all the goodness there is in the world, and breathing out everything that you do not want anymore. Bow to your own inner enlightenment and just say, thank you, divine, for my beautiful life. And after this podcast is over, write down what a beautiful life looks like to you if you really, truly knew that every area of your life is beautiful. Who are you with? Where do you live? How do you live? Material and spiritual, it's all energy, it's all God. And I love you, and I love Thomas, and you are just loved. And as I say sometimes, amen and yay.
Amen and yay. Be a love dog. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Michele. Enjoy the journey.
Subconscious mind mastery, mastery, mastery.